Self-Made Millionaire Tips with Jay Levy. Excited to get into a few more topics while I have your time, and I appreciate your time. We had the writers actors strike, first time since 1963. As a tech entrepreneur, let me ask you, where do you think entertainment is headed? Obviously, they're arguing over likeness, residuals. Give me your thoughts on what you think is going to transpire and where things are going to go with this.
So AI, language models, ChatGPT, all that type of stuff. I don't think we can ignore it. I liken it to steroids for good writers. So Barry Bonds was inherently a good baseball player, right? Yeah, he took steroids, which made him even a better baseball player. But 5'8" me cannot go and hit a home run in any National League park in this country, right? Even if I took steroids, right? It's not going to happen anytime soon. And I look at some of these language models and AI as just that for creatives. It is going to make the average creator better and good, and the good creator are incredible. And I think their ask isn't realistic, right? The Writers Guild, right? Where, listen, I think to use likeness, not cool, right? To be able to use AI to recreate this conversation, use either of our likeness and not with approval, not with compensation, is not cool at all. But to say that you can't use AI to help writers create scripts, to get ideas, I just don't think flies long term.
Yeah,
and so I think that ask is too far. And I think they need to embrace it, right? For the value it can provide. Like, leverage AI and maybe you could make some bad movies really good.
Oh yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, and for anyone, I mean, we hire a lot of writers. It's hard to find really good quality writers, and then when you find one, you typically hang on to them for a long time. And we have a lot internally that we've had for years. I have one person that's been working with us for 5.5 years because he's just exceptional and he gets it and he's prompt and so I agree with you. I think it could make things a lot better. But I think the big picture is someone that's not great that maybe had a chance in the industry it's going to get really tough. Maybe they're not going to have a shot because it's going to be, as you said, for the exceptional writers, they're just going to flourish, but it may shrink the pool and also bring down the costs. I mean, listen, the networks are like, we need to bring down the costs, right? The platforms aren't as profitable as they all thought they were going to be. And so it's a difficult one. Someone here, being here in California, and I know people that got laid off, and I know people involved in this, and I know people in the industry. It's challenging, but it's sort of the shift of where things are going, in my opinion. Yeah. We're slowing down the inevitable here.
I think their ask, unfortunately, was too draconian, right? Where if you look at actually kind of what they put down as their demand, it's just ignore it completely, like it doesn't exist, right? Yeah. Let's go back to 2 years ago, 3 years ago, whatever it might be. And I just don't think that's the world. Like, and you can't tell me that there are not plenty of writers who are already on ChatGPT looking for ideas and helping craft messages. Look, yeah. There's not a day that goes by that I don't drop an email into one of these systems to make it better.
Yeah.
Is that a bad thing? I mean, I'm just trying to improve.
Yeah.
Right. I still wrote the core of the email and just made it a little better. Gave me some ideas.
Yeah. Yeah. Make me sound less dismissive of what you're asking me. Right. No, I'm just using one example.
Give me steroids.
Right. Exactly. Do you think we can stop the use of AI for actors, or do you think that's going to happen? There's no.
It's going to happen. Yeah. Right. Like, and at some point, what's going to happen, like everything else, is like they're going to embrace it and be like, this is amazing. Right. We're producing better content. We're doing more movies now because we can produce more, which means we need the same amount of writers, if not more, because we're producing more content from the same amount of people. That's better. We're making more money because our movies are doing better in the box office. Like, right. It'll happen. Right. It's just a matter of like how long it takes to get there. Yeah. Like, do I think that like they should be able to produce a movie with Brad Pitt and Brad Pitt not have any say because we're able to use technology to recreate him in videos and recreate his voice? Absolutely not. Right. And I don't think that's what anyone's asking for.
Right.
So let's separate out like the fear mongering of where it could go from the reality of what probably the right middle ground is.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Well, let's, I don't want to go too much into that because I know we have a very limited time with you, but I wanted to talk about, I know you get a lot of pitches, and tell me some horror stories, because I'm sure you're getting, 700-800 a year. What are some of the things that people are doing that you're sort of shocked by when they're trying to ask you for money? They're trying to ask you to be a partner in their business. Can you tell me some things that have happened that you were sort of blown away by?
So it's a little common sense where you're like, show up on time, right? Don't multiple postpone meetings multiple times, like show interest, right? And investors, like, listen, investors have egos, they want them to be stroked. Like that's just the reality of our industry. Um, so it's don't be cocky, be confident, but not cocky. And that's a fine line. We get that a lot where like, okay, like this founder is going to be impossible to deal with. Um, the thing that we see a lot is too many stars have to align, right? It's like, wow, you have to have like XYZ has to happen in order for you to succeed. And XYZ is nearly impossible and never happens. And now you need all three to happen at the same time. Like, good luck. It ain't gonna happen, right? Like, I'm a big believer in like keep it simple, right? At the end of the day, like this stuff doesn't need to be that complex, especially the B2B software stuff that we're investing in. I'm trying to think of like an absolute horror story or, crazy pitch. It's been a while since I've seen something so crazy. Like I've
Yeah.
seen some stuff over the years, and someone will come to you at the end of the podcast about something totally crazy. But it's more of like founders' arrogance that really turns a lot of investors off.
Yeah.
And the challenge is like investors talk, right? Like it's real. While it's a big community now, it's grown. Like we tend to work with the same investors, where LPs in each other's funds, things of that nature. So word gets around quick, right? Of founders that are difficult to deal with and difficult to work with. The only regrets I have from an investment perspective are not the companies that haven't succeeded. It's the companies that have backed founders that I knew in my gut didn't necessarily have the same moral compass I had, and I could tell it was going to be a contentious relationship. Those are my failures. Even some
Yeah.
of those have succeeded.
Yeah, and you just thought the business was going to work, and so you just move forward with it, or what made you move forward on those?
I went with greed, right? Like that's the reality.
But
Like
also
the
as a
greed.
business owner, it's tough too, because you are sort of want to, the idea is you want to hit these doubles and triples, as you mentioned earlier. And so if you really think it's a good idea, can you put aside, I mean, a business, you have to put aside things that you don't agree with. So
Yep.
it is tough to always end up with someone that you have the same beliefs. I don't think that's always going to be the case.
And it's not necessarily beliefs, because we have, from a belief perspective, founders that range the spectrum, different beliefs than I have. It's more of a approach to business. Like, how do you do business? Like, are you the type of person that needs the final point on everything?
Mm-hmm.
Right? We've all met that person that needs their pound of flesh or needs to win the final point. Like,
right.
We can all succeed. I always say one of the things that we hear a lot is founders are very valuation conscious, understandably. But there is a balance there, right? You don't want to overvalue your company at such an early stage, because you're going to have what we call hair on the deal, right? So when you go to your future round, if you didn't hit your revenue targets or or the market changed, right? 2 years ago, a Series A was a slam dunk with $1 million in ARR. It's not anymore in this market. Well, what happened if you fundraise based on $1 million ARR and now you're not there, right? You're gonna have hair on your deal. You don't want to have a down round. So it's getting founders to be realistic can be a big challenge also. And I always say I've never heard a founder regret an investor making too much money. I've heard plenty of founders regret overvaluing their company though. Because if the investors made too much money, the founder did darn well too.
Yeah, that's true. Right. Yeah, that makes sense. What kind of ideas are you looking for now? And what's on your hit list today, Jay? Like what are the ideas out there that you're looking for? What haven't you seen, or what's coming to the table that you're excited about today?
Yeah, so we're looking into a lot of given AI and the future of work and productivity around that. So tools to help make companies and individuals more productive, leveraging AI. That's a big one for us. Um, Another is really like how do you improve customer service with AI? One overall theme, and this is a business I've been looking to invest in for years and haven't found the right one, is personal CRM. So we think about Salesforce, HubSpot, CRM platforms. They're very much built around companies, right? But you now have this rise of independent contractors, 1099s, right? That run businesses that customers are people. Customers are not necessarily businesses or they're individual businesses. You can't really manage these relationships through
Sales.
Salesforce or HubSpot, right? You need a custom. So, and there are some people out there playing around with this. That's an area, one that, and I keep a list of, it's probably up to 50 company ideas, right? Like out there, like I just pulled it off to kind of rattle some out. H&R Block meets TurboTax for the next generation. So, obviously we're trying to do everything digitally now, but there are some things that should still happen in person. So I think, a tax planning tool, financial planning tool for the next generation, for the millennials, huge opportunity, right? Like I'm just literally looking through improved tenant screening. We're seeing a large given rent increases over the past few years and the fact that wage increases haven't kept up, we're seeing landlords are starting to have problems with tenant turnover and tenant
Right.
eviction and silent evictions. So better tools, like there are tons of tools out there for tenant screening, but they really don't do it from all the landlords I speak to.
That, by the way, it's so crazy you brought that up because I'm owners in a number of apartment buildings, and I have different syndicators that I've invested into these, and one of them does really great. He's not even using any of these tools, but I think he just has a sixth sense kind of tenants, right?
Yep.
And then one of the other ones are having tons of problems. And I was having a conversations with them over the weekend about, what obviously you guys are picking, one of them's picking the right tenants and one of them picking the wrong tenants.
Right.
And I agree. That's a huge, because I think in this day and age, like in real estate, like, these syndicators are, they're just looking to jack rents, but then if you jack the rents to a point where it gets unattainable or they can't afford it, and then you have all these evictions, I mean, that's more costly than anything, right?
Absolutely. Yep. And that one came out of a personal experience, right? We're seeing with some real estate we're involved with, we're like, wow, we went back and we looked at how we were screening and we're like, you know what, the existing tools just don't work. And there are challenges there. So like things like that, like where we're coming, kind of getting back to like other ideas, like I'm big around sales enablement. How do you help companies sell better? So now obviously the big wave is how do you use these language models and different AI and different training to help improve sales, especially in a world where our inboxes are way cluttered, right? And email marketing, while still works, is a lot harder than it used to be. Digital marketing, Facebook, et cetera, is much more expensive than it used to be. So how do you use AI and tools to kind of help with the sales process?
Yeah.
So
No,
those
these
are
all
some
make,
areas.
yeah, and also again, that's, with one of my businesses being a huge sales business, that's one of the things that we're going through every day is, there's so many spam calls and the emails are more difficult to get through, and these are all challenges that everybody's, Facebook and all the ads have, skyrocketed over the last 10
Yep.
years. Even simple tools that you would use to stay in front of somebody have it, retargeting ads and things like that have gotten really expensive. It's not like how it used to be.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, those ideas are all really interesting. I'm sure there's someone right now watching this, hopefully, that's creating one of those. And how do they get in touch with you to pitch the next great idea?
Yeah. So I always tell founders the best way is to get introduced via another founder, right? So we've got 100 founders in a portfolio. If you can somehow connect one of them, know one of them, get an intro to a venture, not just us, but to any venture investor through the founder. That is by far VC drops everything, reviews the deal, gets on the phone with you. That's kind of step one. If that's not the way, if that's not how it's not a route you have. If you are raising, you have anyone committed, an existing investor or a new investor, leverage them for an intro if they know us or a friend of a friend. But we've done deals where the founders have connected us with us on, well, Twitter, I guess X now. But Joe from Clout, which was one of our early deals, I connected with on Twitter, and we ultimately wound up leading his seed round or whatever we called it back in the day before that term happened. So I'm pretty active on X, Twitter, and we also have a form that you could submit through to us, which is you can get on my profile on Twitter, and that's a good way. We do review those about every 2 weeks. It takes us some time to get through those. I will say we only invest in US based companies. We are seed stage investors, primarily B2B SaaS. So if you are in France building a med tech company looking to raise $30 million, you're wasting your time contacting us. Cold emails are probably the worst. Be cognizant of any brokers that try to help you raise capital, especially at the early stage, because as an investor, we look at that as a negative signal. You need to be able to raise your own capital as a founder at the early stage. Once it gets a little bit later, they can help with the process. But the early stage, just like you need to be able to recruit great talent, you got to be able to recruit great investors.
Well, and it sounds like, based on what you said earlier, having a charismatic founder or founders, if you have to hire a broker to sell your pitch, you're probably not the charismatic founder that you guys are looking for, right? I mean, that's probably a big part.
Don't show up at my home either, please. That one freaks me out.
Okay, that's good. Those are all good tips. Jay, thank you.
Definitely don't show up at my home.
Okay. All right. I'm sure that's happened, but that sounds scary. Thank you so much. Really appreciate your time.
Awesome.
And if anybody's looking to get information to connect Jay, they can, contact our podcast. Obviously, we'll send them to your Twitter and somewhere that they can't find you. But thanks so much. We appreciate it, and hopefully see you then on another podcast.
Sounds good. Thanks so much for having me.